Today I want to share with you one of my favorite northern herbs. This one is close to my heart. It's got a lot of potent chemistry and it has just a beautiful taste. Really good for things like winter depression, antimicrobial properties, and so much more. There's also a bit of a toxic tradition to this though, so you don't want to drink too much. Join me today in learning about Labrador tea. This is a tea from all through the northern lands and one that I think you're going to want to know more about. I've been wanting to share more on this herb for a long time with you guys because this is one that I just love drinking, and I hope you get to know this through this video and learn a bit more about how to work with this as a medicine, a drink, a food, even to make your own ferments with. But first, let's make sure we've got the right plant. So here is Labrador tea. The Latin name is Rhododendron groenlandicum. That's kind of a weird Latin name, groenlandicum. Kind of like they just made it up, and even the word Labrador tea just really denotes where they first sort of found this and started using it. In Labrador. Another name is Greenland tea. Another name is Hudson Bay tea. But you can imagine this is a plant that grows all through the northern regions of North America. It even grows into Scandinavia and some of the northern parts there. They've studied it in Russia, but really where the history of this comes from is a big folklore tradition in the First Nations cultures around working with this. Let's make sure we have the right herb first. So rhododendron, right? That means it's in the rhodo family. This looks like many other rhododendrons, but the big key denominator is that it's got this orange underbelly. So you see these fuzzy orange underbellies. It's also got a really nice profile of essential oils. So when you crush it and give it a smell, oh, that to me is the most intoxicating part about this plant. I just love the smell. I love when I'm brewing it up. I love crushing it, and just when I'm walking, I'll just take a leaf and just crush it up. I just enjoy that fragrance. But just to get clear, its leaves are these nice lanceolate shape, and they kind of bend over the margins, so they curl around till you get this orange underbelly. The other piece is that they grow alternately divided, and like I mentioned with the essential oils, you can really smell this plant. Now there's a few other plants that grow around it that have those kind of oval to lanceolate leaves, but they don't have that same fuzzy underbelly. The other thing to note is that it's got a flowering stalk on the top. This usually flowers between May and July, and it's got a nice white flower with 5 petals, and then it forms these little fruits, little seed pods. They have about 50 different tiny seeds in them. So that's one way to kind of get to know it, is to see these flowering tops come out in May to July. Look for that. But really, to me, it's the fuzzy orange underbelly that really stands out when working with this plant, and that's the easiest way to get to know it. This plant has a lot of common names. One of them is muskeg herb, and another one is bog rosemary or just bog tea. And this also denotes where it grows. So we'll see this one is all but in the water. It literally loves those wet feet in those marshes, in those bog areas. So this is not one you're going to find in the high plateaus. You're going to find it down in the bogs. You'll also see that it likes acidic kind of conifer forests. So kind of in between. There's a few other herbs that grow in this area, but really Labrador tea is one of our most common bog herbs, especially in the northern lands. Now I've seen this in Finland when I was there and we drank some of this tea, but I've also seen it when I've gone up north, and I've seen it all the way out into eastern Canada. So I know this is all over the place. This is one of those herbs that probably is growing near you. If you live anywhere in the kind of northern half of the United States up into all through Canada and probably into Scandinavian countries, you're going to find this herb pretty regularly in your bogs and in those kind of areas. Labrador tea typically grows from 1 foot to about 5 feet tall. Now it's considered an evergreen, so it'll always have green leaves. But as you can see, these older ones are past their prime. When it comes to harvesting this, we want to work with these fresh green leaves. We're looking for the ones with more of the orange underbits. When it's early and young, it's going to have more of a light colored underside, and I feel like the chemistry is better at this time of year. Right now is early fall, but it's also picked in the early spring. We don't want to pick it during the summer when the flower is on, because that's where the energy is. So if we're looking for the leaves as medicine, this is the time of year to get out and pick it. When it comes to harvesting, I know that this is a fragile plant. It's in abundance here, but it takes a long time to grow. So typically what I'll do is I'll just pick half the leaves off of one stem and then wander over and pick off of another one, like so. I like to pick with my fingers. I don't clip this. I don't clip the whole tops. That way I'm leaving some to grow and regenerate. And this plant, because it only grows a few sets of leaves every year, it's easy to over harvest. So I kind of like to think about, when it comes to sustainable harvesting, wandering around like I was an elk or a deer, munching on the plants, and I'd just go and pick a couple here, pick a couple over here, pick a couple over here, and just keep kind of moseying around the patch. When you have a place like this where it's super abundant, it can be easy to want to take as many as you can in one small area. But like I said, because this takes a long time to grow, you're best to take your time and just meander around the patch. I make a tradition of getting out and picking this herb every fall. I love drinking this in the winter. It's been used for seasonal affective disorder and depression and just kind of uplifting the mood. It has a bit of a lucitory effect, that it kind of gives us lucid dreaming and just enhances our overall happiness. So this is one of my favorite herbs for that. You know, there's an old Puget Sounder quote that says, "I laugh at depression. Give me a plate of clams and a pot of Labrador tea, and I'll beat the winter blues any day." And I think of it like this. Sometimes I'll just have a pot on the stove, sip it slowly. The thing about this one though, is you do have to be careful not to brew it too strong. Many of the essential oils in there are quite potent. So I want to take a minute to just talk about some of the chemistry and why this is so beneficial, and then we'll kind of move on to some of the health benefits. This plant contains a lot of potent chemistry. That's part of the reason it was drank as tea. It has that nice flavor. It's got some good essential oils. It's got some triterpenes and some sesquiterpenes and various kinds of aromatic compounds like that that have many of the medicinal benefits. It's also got a lot of tannins in it, so it's astringent and tightening to the tissues. It's got a ton of antioxidants and a lot of vitamin C. So this is one of those really antioxidant, health enhancing, invigorating herbs. There's some flavonoid compounds in there, and there's just a bunch of other trace minerals and elements. So in general, Labrador tea has just a real good suite of chemistry to enhance the body. Now, because some of those triterpenes and sesquiterpenes are so strong, drinking too much of this can have a negative effect. In fact, some people consider this to be a hallucinogenic plant when drank in high amounts. But for those of you, I know what you're thinking, this isn't the kind of hallucinogenic plant that you want to experiment with. It can put people into paralysis and actually be dangerous. So word of caution, don't drink too much Labrador tea. Think of it as one that helps you move your chemistry, move your energy, and clear things, but it may be not a sustainable all the time drink. Now, myself, I've drank this throughout the winters, but usually just 1 cup a day or just a little bit at a time. Many of the uses of Labrador tea are really chalked up to its antimicrobial properties. This is one that's been used both externally and internally for having antibacterial compounds, having antiparasitic compounds, and just helping move out toxic pathogens in the body. So it's also got a bit of anti-inflammatory compounds. It's been used in the digestive tract to help deal with some inflammation and to just kind of calm down and sedate the stomach. It's slightly narcotic, so it will relax the body to a degree. This means it also has properties that help with analgesic pain releasing. So here we have a herb that works on a lot of different areas of the body. Some of my favorite ways to use this, I mentioned depression, but also like migraines and headaches and pain like that. This is a great one to drink when you have a hangover, or when you're having a lot of pain in your head, when you're having pain in your body, inflammation throughout the body. Digestive tract, like I mentioned, kind of just calming down the stomach, but too much of this tea can actually upset the stomach. It has an effect that can be either slightly laxative or slightly constipating when you drink too much. But generally, it's relaxing that whole area of the body. Another area that Labrador tea has been shown to be really beneficial is in decongesting the tissues. It's helping move stagnation in the body. This is, to me, a big part of why it has so much use as medicine, is that it helps move stagnation. It gets flow going. Just like it's growing here in the bogs, it's kind of moving this turbid, stagnant soil, creating this beautiful aromatic chemistry that's uplifting in that way. it's transformative. So we see plants like this that come into these kind of landscapes and they have that similar effect in our body. They're transforming what no longer serves us. And that's why I love this herb in general. It helps me keep moving. So it's been a decongestant for the lungs and for the cardiovascular system. So just kind of moving things through the body. People use it for sore throats, for colds, for all that type of inflammation that comes around cold and flu season. Another reason why I love picking it in the fall is I can put a nice cup of tea on, it's going to relax my mind, it has slightly anti-anxiety effects, and it's also going to decongest my airways and my cardiovascular system. Oh, I just love the smell of this one. That alone is enough to get me out and harvesting this, is that smell when it's brewing on my stove, when I'm out picking it. But you know, beyond some of the medicinal properties I've already talked about, there's a couple of really important ones to look at with this one. Like I mentioned, it's decongesting for the body. It does a really good job of decongesting the liver and the kidneys as well. So things like kidney stones, gallstones, but also decongesting a toxic liver or working with hormone loads that are overloaded in the liver. This is a great herb for that kind of thing. It also is a really good cell proliferant, so regenerating liver cells and kidney cells. So there's a lot of benefits that way. But one of the biggest things that this has been studied for in Russia anyway is around its anti-mutagenic properties. What that means is it helps with cells that are mutating. So they've been using this with people who have gone through chemotherapy and have radiation toxicity, but also people from Chernobyl and other radioactive outbreak type situations. Labrador tea as a regular tea has helped the cells to stay normal and to normalize and not to mutate so easily. This is a big piece of how this might work as a medicine for things like cancer. And there's been a bit of study around this herb and drinking it as a cancer medicine. So that's something you might want to look into if you are in that situation or know anybody like that. Here's a herb that's going to normalize our cells to a degree and really help regenerate and move out congestion. As this is an anti-pathogenic herb, it's great for things like parasites as well, or candida overgrowth or microbiome dysbiosis of some form. This is one of those herbs that can be drank to support that, but it also is used outside of the body for similar effects. Things like ringworm and scabies and lice and mites and all of this type of thing. We can make a strong decoction, which is to really simmer this up till it's a nice brew, and then sponge bath it on the skin for these kinds of conditions. The other thing is, because it's astringent and tightening to the tissues, it's been used for things like eczema and psoriasis and just any kind of skin inflammation. So if you're in an area where Labrador tea grows, you might want to start to use it as a skin medicine. In fact, I know that there's a cosmetic company out there now that has a whole line of serums and face toners and skin enhancers that are based on working with Labrador tea. It's got that high vitamin C, those antioxidants, some of those nice essential oils that really enhance and tone the skin, but also that astringent quality. So here we have another reason to work with Labrador tea for all your external wound care, but really eczema, psoriasis, mites, scabies, you name it. Lice is a big one, like I said, in this part of the world anyway. You can make a strong decoction and put it in a shower cap on the head, and it's been used that way. But even beyond that, things like mites and moths that might get into your clothes, a traditional use is to crush up these leaves, take a handful or so, a couple of handfuls, crush them all up, put them in a little cotton bag or a little muslin cloth in the closet to help stop moths and mites that might eat your clothes, especially your woolens. So that's another great way to work with this herb, is just to have it in the environment as an anti-pathogenic quality to those types of things. One of the traditional ways to work with Labrador tea is to add it to a smoke mix, to a knick-knack mix. This is something that many First Nation cultures do. This herb has a really wonderful flavor and it burns really well. So this might be used to kind of clear the space, to clear the veils. We add it to a smoke blend from Harmonic Arts as a way to kind of just calm down. It's called spirit smoke, and it's just to really enhance that sort of spirit connection. It might be something you'd add to cannabis or maybe instead of as a nice smoke in a group or on your own. Another way is obviously to use this as a smudge or an incense or something along that line. It doesn't have to go into the lungs. The idea is that a veil of the Labrador tea smoke can kind of clear some of those things that aren't serving us. Labrador tea flower essence is also another potent medicine to center the body's energy in the moment, to remove stress from extreme situations. So if you feel a lack of presence sometimes, this is a medicine that could maybe ground you in if you work with it as a flower essence. I just love getting out and connecting in with the Labrador tea patch. I feel like there's a piece of me that is coming home when I'm out here in the field, in the forest, in the bog, in the wildlands. And this plant in particular, I've been connecting with the last 10 years at a deeper level. So when I come out and say hello to these plants, when I come out and start harvesting them, it's as though we're building a deeper relationship. And this is a big piece of herbal medicine. It's connecting in and working with the plants, alongside them, building relationships with the natural world. This is fundamental in how all indigenous wisdom teachings are taught and brought. And I think this in itself is the bigger lesson to learn about becoming a herbalist or connecting in with plant medicine. It's building relationships, not using the plants. Now, I've shared with you a bit about the chemistry of this plant. I've shared with you some of the healing benefits it can have on the skin and in the body. This is a very potent medicine that moves stagnation and congestion. I think of it as one of my top herbs for the winter months. I brew it up, I make ferments with it, I enjoy it as a mead, and I just enjoy connecting in with the plant. I hope you do too, but I want to leave you with a bit of a cautionary tale that if you are to work with this plant, remember that it has a bit of a toxic tradition. You can overdo it, so don't brew it up too strong unless you're making an external wash, and don't use it during pregnancy. This herb is a potent medicine that grows all through the northern regions and is really easy to start working with. So I hope that this video gave you a few insights and tools and tips and ideas of how to start to work with Labrador tea, and that this herb becomes a beneficial ally in your plant medicine path. Thanks for joining me in learning a bit more about Rhododendron groenlandicum, a great herb for the modern age, as much as one that has a rich history and is just a powerful plant that has shown up in so many profound ways. May the Labrador tea be with you, my friends. We'll see you next time. Brew.